Whitelock Fever live, and if you're watching in Australia on the Hot Metal Facebook page particularly, then it is midnight. So why not speak to someone from the band Midnite City? We've got Rob Wylde here from aforementioned band. They've got a new record out. Hey Rob, how are you, mate?
I'm doing good, mate. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm good. And I should have said, for future editing purposes, if you listen to the podcast, welcome back. And Rob from Midnite City has joined us. And, mate, what a time to bring out a new record. We're coming out of lockdown, maybe, perhaps, hopefully. Is the timing, which was in May, this record came out, is good timing, bad timing? How's it been?
I think it's good timing. I hope so. The issue, I mean, this album has been finished for such a long time. We actually finished recording the album in October of last year, so the album's been done like all that time. So it's been a really, really long wait. But when we signed with our new label at the end of last summer, and we were obviously, because the album was finished, we were keen to get it out, the start of this year. We were possibly looking at releasing it in sort of January, February time. But they just basically said, there's really no point in doing that at the minute, especially with everything going on, because obviously once the album comes out, we want to get out and play shows and do all that kind of thing. So they came up with the idea to put it out in May, and we at the time, this is like January. We were thinking, oh, that's such a long time, but it's weird. It's sort of come around quite quickly, So, but yeah, we're just relieved to finally have the thing out. It's been such a long way. It seems like I was about 21 when I recorded this album with the guys. We've all aged, I think, quite a lot. Hence the sunglasses.
Yeah. I was going to say, I noticed it's on Roulette Records. So you moved from AOA Heaven to Roulette Records, and I tried to find out something about Roulette Records. Is it actually a PR firm that is is that what it was originally, a PR firm?
It's kind of a little bit of both. It was a little bit misleading, actually, when we first started talking to them. We weren't sure whether it was a media company or whether it was a record label. But I think it possibly started out as more of a media thing, and now it's very much a record label now. We signed with them last, I think it was August. We signed the deal. We just felt that on our last sort of album. We've done 2 albums with AOR Heaven. The last one, we didn't feel it really got as a bigger push as the first one. And, we were basically with that label, we were just signing with them album to album. So we weren't tied into any deal with them beyond the last album, There Goes the Neighborhood. So we started looking around with, for new labels, and Roulette Media kind of kept cropping up. And, we also spoke to Frontiers as well. Frontiers offered us a deal last summer, but we just kind of looked at both kind of labels and for what we were doing and what we wanted to do, and Roulette seemed like the place to go. They kind of signed less bands, but kind of really worked the bands they signed, which was kind of like music to our ears, because I think that there's a lot of labels out there at the minute that sign, they seem to sign like 100 bands a month, and the album comes out and within like a week they're on to the next release, but we just wanted a label that was going to really get behind the band, and we seem to have struck gold with Roulette.
Yeah mate. The one thing that I really want to ask about, I'm going to ask you to introduce a song for the podcast listeners shortly, and I don't want to lead you down a certain track in that area, but the video for They Only Come Out at Night is quite an epic, and it's fresh in my mind because I only watched it just before this call. I advise anyone who's watching on YouTube I might put a card up there somewhere so you can watch it. But and it's like, now what was that film from years ago about the video camera that got lost? But the whole concept is is quite elaborate. I don't want to give it away too much, but I mean, can you tell us a little bit about how that came about? How it was put together? So from I guess conception to execution.
Yeah. Well, the actual song itself, I wrote totally inspired by. I was just sat on the couch like watching Lost Boys with my girlfriend about a year and a half ago, and obviously, I've seen everyone's seen that movie a million times, but I hadn't seen it in like 20 years or something. And I was just watching it and thinking, what a great soundtrack, I mean, it's a great movie, but what a great soundtrack. And I just said, wouldn't it be cool if, one day they did a really cool, remake of I guess I was also thinking about at the time, the Top Gun remake was kind of, I think it was supposed to be at last summer, wasn't it? But there was that was kind of going, that was maybe subconsciously in the back of my mind. But I remember just thinking, they made a really cool remake of Lost Boys, to get, it wouldn't be cool to get a song on the soundtrack. And I'd had this title, They Only Come Out at Night, the song title for quite a while. So the next day I kind of sat down and wrote the song, which is kind of weird because I've never really written a song like that about, I almost wrote it as if I was writing it for, a movie soundtrack, which obviously, we that's not happened, but it was kind of, that was the idea behind it. So it kind of took on a life of its own. And then when we recorded it, in the studio, it just turned out to be this kind of almost like epic sounding song. And it sounded like nothing else we've ever done before. It was so different. And we all said, this has got to be one of the singles, and it's got to be one of the videos. So yeah, it was the third video. And credit to Sean, our keyboard player. He actually completely scripted the whole video. He actually, and he said to us, I want to make this not just a video. I want to make it kind of this, almost like a mini movie, with a real storyline. And because to those people who might not have seen it, there's kind of like a 4-minute kind of intro before the actual song starts, just to kind of paint the picture of what the story's about, and he came up with this whole idea of, these three people who won this ticket to kind of, go around this haunted mansion sort of thing. And, can you survive the night? And obviously, they don't, but it's such a cool, I mean, we hired this incredible venue called Kellam Hall, which is just on the outskirts of Nottingham. And this place was just like, I mean, if you Google a picture of it, I mean, this place was just huge. And we had the run of the place for like 12 hours. And it was a really long shoot. We were there from, I think it was like 1 p.m. till 1 a.m. the next morning. But he did an incredible job of it. He kind of took my idea of the song and what the song was written about, and he kind of just ran with it and wrote the script, and hired the actors and directed the whole thing. And he did a really cool job of it. And we're, I mean, it's by far our best video. I can't really see how we're going to top that one, really. It's such a cool video. But yeah, so that's in a nutshell, that's kind of what the song's about.
And now I'm going to talk to you now about this little section about what may be a favourite subject, may not be a favourite subject. Melodic Rock Fest in Melbourne. You managed to get down to Oz at a time when, I guess a lot of the world was shutting down, and it was newsworthy, to say the least, with what happened down there. Why don't we start at the beginning with the whole story? Sounds fascinating to me. So you get this offer to go and play one show on the other side of the world. Maybe we start there with the story, because I'm sure it's a very interesting story.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. We got offered that show, a long time before we went out to play it, and obviously, I mean, what band doesn't want to go to Australia to play a gig? So it was just like, yeah, we're there. We kind of sorted out all the arrangements, and everything was great. I mean, flights were paid for, hotels were paid for. Obviously, we got a fee for playing. So it was all great. We were all excited about going, and then kind of on the lead up to it, it started turning into this kind of I don't know what, nobody really knew what was going on, because all these bands started dropping out, and then bands were saying, well, the visas hadn't been sorted, because obviously we needed visas as well. which the organisers were going to sort for us. So it all went back and forth for a long time, and quite a lot of bands dropped out. I know FM dropped out, and I think Crazy Licks dropped out, and a few other bands dropped out. But we were just like, well, you know, we were in touch with a girl called Sapphire, who was kind of she was kind of taking care of us, and she kept emailing us, and because we were saying, well, look, is it going to happen or is it not, you know? And she's like, don't worry, it's happening. Don't worry, your visas are in, you know, it's all in hand. Just don't stress out. So we just kind of left it, and whilst all these other bands were dropping out, we just left it. But I've got to say, I remember we had a rehearsal on the Saturday. We were due to fly out on the Monday, and we got home, you know, Saturday, and there was still no, you know, the flights had been paid for, but there was no visas. So obviously there's no way we could get on a plane without our working visas. So, and then Sunday came and went, and still no visas. And we were just thinking, well, that's it. You know, it doesn't look like we're going now. And then I think it was 6 a.m. on the Monday morning, we got an email with our working visas. So it was literally about like 3 hours later, we're you know, driving down to Manchester Airport to fly out. So so it all kind of worked out. I mean, to be honest with you, I know a lot of the, you know, a lot of people were kicking off about it online and stuff. And yeah, I think there's certain parts of it that maybe could have been dealt with better. But I'll tell you what, as soon as we got there, we were treated great. You know, everything that we asked for, we got. Like I said, you know, our flights were covered, our hotel was covered for a week. I mean, we were out there for a week. We ended up playing 2 shows in the end. We were there for a week. You know, our fee was paid. We got paid on time. So honestly, we had no real complaints, you know, and we'd heard a lot of kind of, you know, all these sort of backstabbing and stuff going on online. But I thought, you know, Peter Hoffman and Pete Naylor were great guys, really, really nice guys. We got along with them really well. And yeah, I think, long story short, I think a few of those bands just panicked because, you know, if they'd have waited maybe a couple of days later, that their visas would have been in their email box, and they'd have been, you know, they missed out. You know, Crazy Licks missed out, and FM missed out, you know, playing in Australia, you know. So
what was
yeah,
it like there, Rob? Was it? I heard that the crowd wasn't massive, but how was the gig?
It was good. I mean, when we got there, there was still sort of a little bit of controversy as to who was going to, because bands were sort of arriving at different times, and all the bands were in one hotel. So we were there with Janet Gardner from Vixen and the Enough's Enough guys and the Reckless Love guys. And then there was kind of rumors that this band wasn't going to make it, and this band, you know, someone went to pick them up and they weren't there. But so the festival definitely did get trimmed down, and unfortunately as well, the actual main festival should have been happening in this great, it was like an old theatre from the 1920s. Can't remember the name of it, but no, it wasn't Festival Hall. It was it was literally just down the road from where we were staying in St Kilda. And we were really looking forward to playing that venue because it looked great. You know, it kind of almost looked like a little bit like a smaller version of sort of like the Hammersmith Odeon or something like that. But then it just got moved to a club. Sorry, not a club. It got moved to like a hotel sort of complex. But it was cool. I mean, we still had a great gig. I mean, we went down an absolute storm. I mean, we outsold every other band in merch. We actually got the merch list from Peter Hoffman at the end of the day, and we outsold Reckless Love and every other band on the bill. So we went down really well. And also prior to that, 2 nights before that, we played a show with Reckless Love and White Widow as well. So we played on the Thursday, and then we played the festival on the Saturday. But you know what, we had a great time. I mean, none of us had ever been to Australia before. It was March, so it was, like leaving cold grey England, and we were like 5-minute walk from the beach, and we were there for a week, which is so unheard. Usually when we go out and play, we'll go and play in Europe or wherever we're going, Japan, and you play, and then you and that's it. You don't really get to see really any of the cities or the countries you go to. But so it was actually great to be just, we were literally based in one place for a week, and we got to know all the locals, and it was great, and people that have flown from around the world to come to this festival. I mean, we had some friends of ours who flew over from the UK, came to see us, and people from New Zealand and countries in Europe. So we were just like in the middle of around the gigs, we were just hanging out and having a great time.
One thing that I've noticed in your on your social media and everywhere is that you proudly call yourself a hair metal band, and a lot of the bands from actually back in the day hate the term. What's the thinking there? Because I know you were in, the previous band you were in, previous full-time band you're in was different. Like it was kind of power pop a little bit. So obviously it was like a deliberate thing that not only are we going to play hair metal, but we're going to tell everybody it's hair metal. What was involved in that decision?
Yeah, good question. Well, I mean, for me, that's the hair metal stuff is what I grew up on. From being a 9-year-old kid, it was just all I listened to. It was my entire album collection is all that stuff. So I was just massively into it, and always have been. And yeah, played obviously many bands before this. The band prior to this I was in, which I was in it for actually over 10 years, was a band called Teenage Casket Company, which was kind of, like you say, kind of more of a power pop. It's kind of like more of a Cheap Trick sort of thing going on. A little bit of like Marvelous 3, Butch Walker's band, and American Hi-Fi, a lot of that kind of stuff. And that was basically at the time when I formed that band. It was here in the UK. I mean, there was just if you're talking about hair metal, whatever, melodic rock, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it wasn't even dead. It was just non-existent, that scene. There was no bands, and I was in a band prior to that, and we would literally go out and play in front of like 10 people because just nobody was interested. It was just such almost like a dinosaur type of music. And at the time, I was only in my like mid-20s, and I'm thinking, this is no fun, going out and playing gigs, and I'm playing in front of like, old guys in like Marillion t-shirts and stuff. So I was just like, there's got to be a way around this, and because it was really at a point where it was like, well, I'm going to have to try and update what I'm doing, or I'm just going to have to just not do it, not do it for a while, because everything, no matter what, it seems the most unfashionable thing in the world right now. In 5-6 years, it will come back around. It'll be cool again, So at the time, I started listening to, some other bands. Like I said, like Marvelous 3 was a big influence, which was Butch Walker's band, before he kind of became the sort of big producer, songwriter that he is now. American Hi-Fi, 40 Foot Ringo, Sugar Cult, bands like that. And it was kind of like, it was kind of cool because there was still elements of kind of 80s rock, the big choruses and the melodies, but it was just sort of just trimmed down a little bit. You get rid of the guitar solos, the songs would be a bit shorter, a bit more kind of straight to the point. So I did that for a good 10 years, and had a great time with it. We released 5 albums, 2 American tours, had a great time. But then that kind of just came to its natural end, and then it was just I've just got to do this. I've got to go back to what I should have always been doing, and obviously at the time as well, and I'm still a member of Tiger Tails, which is another obviously very big, big band from back in the day. So that kind of was sort of like my doorway into it as well. And it was just when I just, once my old band was done, you know, I'd pretty much wrote the first album before there was a band, and then just decided this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to find guys that kind of, you know, look a certain way and want to do what I'm doing, and just to kind of be just unashamedly proud of what we do and what kind of music. Because you're right, you know, a lot of people do kind of frown on the hair metal title, and a lot of people think it's silly, and you know, it's cheesy, and it's not really got that much credibility. But you know, they you know, this style of music creates the best melodies and the best songs and the best hooks, and well, obviously in my opinion anyway. So yeah, it was just a really, really conscious decision to go back to my roots, and I found a bunch of guys that all wanted to do the same thing, and all sort of believed in the same thing, and it's worked incredibly well so far.
Has the audience changed from old guys in Marillion t-shirts?
Not much. Yeah, there's still a lot of those around. You know, that was one of the things I was thinking when I went back out, and I was kind of like, okay, I wonder if it's going to be the same. And to be, I'm not going to lie to you, it is pretty much the same, but it's a much bigger audience. So instead of there being 3 guys in Marillion t-shirts, there's at least, you know, like, you know, a few hundred at every show. But having said that, I think that's mainly in the UK. It tends to be. I mean, obviously you get girls coming out to the gigs as well, but in Europe it's completely different. In Europe, the audience is much younger, you know. So you get it's kind of cool because we have that kind of crossover in our kind of music where it is, you know, it's a little bit melodic rock and a little bit AOR at times, but it can also be kind of glam and sleazy at times. So you can. You know, you can attract the kind of the guys that might listen to FM and those type of bands, but we're also tapping into, you know, like Crash Diet's fan base and Reckless Love and Crazy Licks. So in Europe, you do tend to get a lot of younger kids, like teenagers, coming out to the gigs, which is great. You know, they're 17, 18 years old coming out in their Crash Diet t-shirts, and they're loving it. So it's kind of, in Europe, we have a really wide range of people, and especially age-wise, a big age range of people coming to see us.
Have you got a theory why that's the case in Europe? Is it something about what is it? Is it about the radio environment? Is it about, you know?
Yeah, I don't know really. I do think in the UK, the style of music that we play isn't. I think we associate ourselves a lot more with the European bands than we do with because I think in the UK, I mean, there's a hell of a lot of bands, but I don't think there's anybody that plays the style of music that we play. We really are kind of like the odd one out. You know, there's a lot of, you know, in the UK, you get the more sort of bluesy rock bands, and there's definitely no band that sounds like Midnite City in the UK. We're the only ones doing it. So I think,
I guess.
well, yeah. Apart from the big guns, yeah. But yeah, I think it's maybe something to do with that. And I think whereas in Europe, it's kind of, you know, they have a lot more. You know, Crazy Licks are kind of. They kind of we sound similar. There's a lot of similarities in those 2 bands, and like I said, Crash Diet, Reckless Love, Heat, you know, Santa Cruz, all those bands who are all from Europe. You know, they're all from mainly the Scandinavian countries, but you know, there's some other bands from different countries in Europe. But I think it's just because it's considered cooler out there than it is over here. Whereas over here, it's more like bands like. You know, like Bigfoot and Massive Wagons, and, you know, not putting those bands down, but, you know, it's like chalk and cheese. We're just in a completely different genre of music altogether from those guys, you know. So I think we just suit better with what's going on in Europe. So yeah, it works better for us.
The one thing I wanted to ask you, you know, you're clearly a lifer. You know, you've been playing since you were 9, and you'll probably be, when you're the age of those guys in the Marillion t-shirts, you're probably still likely to be on stage. How hard has it been over the course of your career to earn a living? And you would have seen it, you know, get good, really good times and really tough times. Can you paint a picture for us, and I suppose compare it to what it's like today as a working musician?
Yeah, I mean, it was really tough. It's like being a musician and do when you really commit your life to it. It's just this all the time, a roller coaster, and you have times where you're really successful and you're making a load of money, and then there's times when you just aren't making any money, you know, and it's really frightening because you don't really do anything else. This is what you do, and this is what you've always done. So you kind of like you paint yourself into a corner. Thankfully, I mean, the last 5-6 years, I've been doing great. It's obviously not been helped by what's been going on the last year and a half, but I think as any guy out there making a living from music will tell you, though, you can't just do it doing one band or doing one thing. You have to be doing a lot of different things to make a living. So, so obviously the Midnite City thing is my life, really. It's what I live for. But I also, I sing in Tiger Tales, who obviously haven't been very active recently because of what's been going on. But I would go out and do a couple of tours with them a year usually. I also have a tribute band that I do, and that would be, again, last year I think I cancelled maybe 100 shows, which were all well-paid gigs, but usually, I've got that as well. I teach guitar, and then I also write songs for other people, and I do session work. I am actually in the studio on Friday with a guy that I'm working with, and I play guitar and bass and drums and stuff. And so it's a lot of sort of different things, a lot of plate spinning, really. But all that combined kind of works, and then you can kind of make an okay living out of it, and at times, like I say, you can actually make a really good living out of it, but then other times it's a little bit more of a struggle. But I think more than anything, if it's something that you've decided that this is what you're going to do, you've just got to do it and find a way of making it work. And like I said, just be doing a lot of different things so you can earn a little bit from this, earn a little bit from that, and and then you get by.
Well, let's hope by the time the new album Itch You Can't Scratch, by the time it runs its course, you've made a heap of money.
That would be nice. That would be nice.